Alright, welcome back. I'm going to do a fish tank update here. So, I got a bunch of plants last week, and they are doing well. The Plecostomus is endeavoring to rip them all out, but I just keep doggedly replacing them every couple days, and so far everything seems to be doing okay. It's not dying or anything like that. So I got a couple different types of foreground plants. I got this a little bit thicker, and it's supposed to be really slow growing. I got this beautiful piece of Bruciflora, which I'm hoping will just keep doing really well, and then I will start propagating it and putting it in certain places. This piece might end up in a different tank. I've got some dwarf hair grass, which I've tried many times and it never grows for me. Now, this stuff was grown in the gel media, so I find that that plant usually is a little easier to plant. You can see I planted kind of big clumps, and then these little bits, individual ones, are the ones that the fish are pulling out, and then I'm replanting. So I planted this area around that plant with the hair grass. And then I found more of these crypts that's similar to this one back here behind this piece in this area. So I moved them and I planted some of those bigger ones, and they had just giant root structures throughout here, and then I ordered more of the aquacultured ones, and those are these little guys here. And now these guys, they can't dig up because that's just a root that I missed getting planted, and you can see how long that is. They have these huge root structures, so once they're in the soil they've got something to hang on to. But these little guys, they're about the size of this fingernail, and they don't have really any roots, so they just keep coming up. But you can see these ones have already started to grow a little bit. So hopefully at least some of them hang in there. I've got a couple cups full of those. And then I moved some of my bronze crypts and the green crypts and back where I pulled those crypts from. So I put them back there, and hopefully they'll fill in and eventually get like this one. So then I've got some Balbitis, which I'm really excited about. This is a pretty tricky plant to find in my area. And I put that on little scrap pieces of the chula wood, and then I kind of threaded them onto this piece of driftwood. So hopefully it'll just sort of make a ball of Balbitis up there. And then today I decided to go crazy, and I moved this piece of driftwood around, and I changed its orientation. So it was sitting here, and I stood it up on end. So it's taller now, and it has more vertical line. That's kind of nice. It goes nicely with the vertical line and this piece. So I like that. And then I moved this piece, a little smaller piece of driftwood, in the back. I also stuck that up on end. And that opened up this area back here, which I took this huge piece, which I cut down last week, and I had this really long segment still, and I took that and I cut it in half, moved 1/3, so 1/3, 1/3, and then the other third is back there, plus 2 new crypts. They're supposed to have longer and skinnier leaves that are planted right in here. So that gives a little bit lower water space open, because everything was just really crowded right there. And I took out over half of the water wisteria. So you can already see that the cardinal tetras like to hang out in there. And I'm sorry the water's so sentimenty, but it's from me pulling up the wood. I even kind of moved this piece. I moved it back. You can see about 2 inches there that I've moved it back. And if you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but sticking out of the driftwood right here is one of my plecos. He's my smallest guy. There he goes. He wiggles his butt at you, so you can see him. So he's kind of making a cave in that piece of wood. So one thing with getting the aquacultured pieces is they come in really small, but they come in really healthy. So I'm hoping, like this stuff hasn't gotten disturbed as much, other than them digging that giant pit last week or so. They really haven't messed around in this area, so I'm hoping that these pieces stay in nice and good. And then the last plant I got is these tiger lily bulbs, and there are 6 of them, and they all show signs of rooting, but most of them are still floating at the top, so they just got to get water saturated and sink. Yeah, see there's one back there by the filter and 2 up there, so half of them are still floating around, and some of those might move into other tanks as well. 3 of those in one tank would be a little bit much. But those dwarf aquarium lilies have a brownish pink leaf, which I thought would be nice in different areas, maybe like one here and one there. They stay fairly low, or they send up shoots, which you can trim off. Maybe one in the back or over here somewhere, just to add a variation in color. Now, this area we have a nice variation between this darker green and the lighter green leaves from the crypt and the Anubias. But you see overall there's a lot of just green, and it would be just nice to get some color in there. I haven't tried any of the red plants because generally they tend to be more demanding. I have a medium tech tank. I use liquid fertilization and liquid CO2, but I don't do pressurized CO2. I don't have high lights. So unless I wanted to really step up how the tech on this tank is, everything needs to just kind of stay the same or use fairly easier plants. So that's why I'm trying a couple different types of ground covering plants, because the hair grass can need higher light, and I don't know if I'll have enough for it. But obviously this type of crypt has been growing in here very slowly for a while now, and it's been doing well. This plant is supposed to do okay in low tech. It just grows incredibly slow, which is fine. I started off with maybe 7 or 8 little tiny pieces of the nano petite Anubias there, and now I literally have that stuff, almost a carpet's worth of it. There's just tons of it everywhere. So you can see some fish a little bit. Sometimes I want plants and I want some stuff happening in the mid-grounds, but I also need to make sure that I always keep open enough swimming room for the plants. So everyone's doing well. Other than that, the plant, you can see back there that we planted 2 weeks ago, it's looking a lot neater. It's starting to get that new growth that's oriented upwards towards the light and the height. I like that it's not growing wildly out of control though so far. So that's gonna be a nice round leaf plant. And I don't know, I might keep it kind of medium short, or I might let it grow up to the top. We'll see how it goes. If I end up letting it grow long, I might move it behind this sword plant so that it can grow up along the back there instead of in front of those swords. I also moved most of those swords a little further forward last week. So again, sorry the tank's sedimenty, but that's what happens when you stir up some gravel. I also had a minor issue with super glue, so that's why that plant has a bunch of white on it. The super glue got just sort of everywhere, all over me, all over the plant. And I mean, that'll eventually, grow some algae and not look terrible, but I might, depending on how much it annoys me, trim off that part of the plant. But it would be like wasting half of a perfectly okay Anubias plant. So that's this week's check-in. I'll check back with you guys later, and we'll see how everything's growing in. Bye.